Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Keep the Line Moving, the podcast designed to talk about leadership, life, and inspiration. I'm your host, Chris Gargano. And for episode 82, we're beginning a series of fireside chats. Some shorter episodes this summer. We know how busy you are. These are bite size, right? We begin with Brandon Costa, the Director of Digital for Sports Video Group, SVG. On a daily basis, he is responsible for gathering content to tell stories and connect content creators to the latest technology as well as workflows in the world of sports production at the college level, pro level, networks, what have you. That's how Brandon and I met. We met when I was with the New York Jets. They did some features on our new studio and other workflows that we were working on. Brandon, coincidentally, is a Jets fan. He grew up in New Jersey. He has a very interesting story. We caught up last month at their annual College Summit, where I was fortunate to partner with SVG and do a Leadership Academy workshop. They're a great organization, and Brandon is not only a colleague, he's a friend. Here's that conversation on Keep the Line Moving.
All right, Brandon. We're at the end of SVG College Summit. What's your main takeaway from this specific event?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from this every year is just how talented the people are that are at this conference, whether they're doing live production, post-production, social media video for the video boards. There's just so much talent, but at the same time, there's sometimes you can become a victim of your own success. The more you do well, the more is then expected of you, and the demands become greater and greater and greater. And I think that's where a conversation with someone like you becomes important, because it can be very easy, as you know, working on the sports side, to really burn yourself out. And as the schools are expected to produce hundreds of live broadcasts and more campuses, stadiums and arenas on campus end up with video boards, there's just so much content to produce and so many things to do, and you want to do it all at a high level. But as you know, the more you spread yourself out thin, quality tends to go down a little bit. So I think the biggest takeaway is giving our attendees both the creative support, the technological know-how to be able to do their jobs better, take care of their staffs in a better way, and continue to deliver high quality products wherever that video may end up.
So we'll talk about, exactly the nuance to your job and the people that you work with on a daily basis. But let's talk about you. You grew up in New Jersey. You're a New York Jet fan. That's where you and I met.
Yeah.
You were very kind to me even, before COVID. This has been a number of years now. You would do features on us when I was executive producer, vice president at the Jets, and we created a friendship, right? Not just a coworker or colleagues per se, but friendship.
Mhm.
So tell me about the origin story of Brandon Costa. How did you grow up a Jet fan? How did you grow up? What was it like? Because we like to dive behind our guests and get to know them.
You want to go cut it through the trauma of being a Jets fan. I get it.
All my former colleagues are not enjoying this right now.
No. I will love the Jets to the day I die. Well, honestly, ironically enough, I grew up when I was really little. Was growing up in New Jersey, and my dad was a Dallas Cowboys fan, and that was like the heyday of the Dallas Cowboys in like the early '90s and everything like that. So when you're really little, you just go along with what Dad wants to do. So I liked the Cowboys then. So then in turn, I didn't like the Giants. So I would end up watching the Jets every week because they were always on TV. And then eventually I hit an age where you can kind of like make decisions for yourself. And I was just like, I realize I'm finding out, I'm learning and know more about the Jets, and I watch more Jets. And then it didn't hurt that also coincided with like the 1998 team with Vinny Testaverde and Curtis Martin and everything. And I thought, for sure, this is a train I should hop aboard now. And I've been a Jets fan ever since, and it's a blast. But that's kind of how it came along. I actually organically kind of picked the Jets myself, which I think tends to surprise people.
I love that, though. All right, so now as we get to know you, your day-to-day of Director of Digital for SVG, tell us about, you approach your job each and every day, and your number one goal is to what?
I think our number one goal is always to help. We're very, very B2B focused. So our job is to create content, events, experiences for people who work in sports video production, for people who work in sports video production. I'm not really all that concerned about any of our content going viral or even being all that appealing to the average sports fan. If it is, but because it's just genuinely curious to them, great. But if someone's the director of engineering at NBC Sports, I want that conversation or that piece of content that we create with them to resonate with a director of engineering at ESPN or a director of engineering. Like we want it to be very inside baseball. Some people are in other content areas. You want to be like, all right, how do we make this appeal to the masses? We want to do exactly the opposite. I want the average fan to look at our website and have their eyes glaze over because they don't know what ST2110 is, or they don't know what SDI is, or they don't know what NDI is. Because we are, this is a trade association for people who work in a very fun and exciting, but technical and complicated industry. So I think it goes a long way for the credibility of us as an organization if we're speaking the language of the people who consume our content on a regular basis. So as director of digital, that requires just covering the industry at large, whether that's how live sports is produced or distributed, while also doing our own website design. We've built a video platform over the years where all of our long form content from our events and interviews can live. So yeah, it's really just creating all these things that can help people do their jobs better, and meet and interact with other people in an industry. And kind of, it's always a great feeling when you see someone. This conference is a perfect example of this. We all are so wrapped up in our own challenges and our own problems. And at some times at some organizations, if you're like a one man or one woman band in like your department, you think you're the only one going through the things that you're going through, and no one else really gets it, or they might not be aware of what you're going through. And then you go to a conference like this and you meet someone who's like you and has the same problems as you. Not only can you work together to find a solution, but it validates you a little bit. It makes you feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. This is hard. And now I've got a community of people who I can lean on when things get hard, and we can help each other out. I think that's ultimately, at the end of the day, the real goal is to help people connect and help people make them feel like their work problems or challenges are not exclusive to them, and that there's a community for them to be a part of. And hopefully everyone, this is a really great all rising tide raises all boats kind of industry. Everyone really helps each other out a lot. And I think that's probably the most satisfying part of fulfilling some of those goals.
So when I asked you that question, you came to life. Not that you're sitting here not coming to life, but
I'm pretty tired. Pretty tired right now at the end of this conference.
I'm there with you.
Bump of coffee.
I know you are. It's late in the day. But let's look at this. I'm going to put you on the spot here because we know each other well enough now. What uniquely about your personality allows you to forge these connections, encourage the connections, and sometimes be part of the connections to help people solve problems?
I don't know. It's a good question. I guess I've never analyzed myself in that way. I mean, I know that because this surprises some people because they think in my position, moderating, doing interviews, traveling, being around a lot, having to talk to a lot of people, strike up a lot of conversations, I'm really not an extrovert at all. I'm an introvert that just happened to get into the drama club in high school and was like, okay, if there's a microphone and lights and a controlled environment, I can speak in that. So I think there was always, and this might be getting like really psychoanalyzing a little bit, but I was always a shy kid. I was a very shy kid when I was young. And I appreciated when someone went out of their way to make me felt like I belonged. So I really like being able to be in a position where you can give that to somebody else. So there's a lot of students that are here at this conference. There's a lot of first timers from mid-major schools who might be looking at these presentations from the University of Texas and Notre Dame and these big control rooms and massive budgets. And they're like, I work alone at this Division II school and I have one TriCaster and I have to produce all the games myself. I really want to go out of my way to introduce that person to other people in the industry and make them feel like they belong here and not that this is above their pay grade or this is for bigger schools. It's like, I guess that's always been a driving force for me is kind of, I like not necessarily going to networking events, but I like curating and creating networking events because I think fundamentally it comes down to it feels good to be a part of something that helps people feel like they belong.
I love that. And in the very room that you and I are recording this podcast was the Leadership Academy that you have helped me facilitate the last couple of years, and at Silicon Valley. There's just been a wonderful, synergy between our two organizations. And in this very room here, as I look out at the crowd that has since departed and they're going back to their respective towns and all, We had like universal participation with issues that we brought up like that. How many people here want to help others? All the hands go up.
Sure.
How many people here are struggling with this issue? All the hands go up. So that commonality, and you said earlier about sharing issues and things that we all have to overcome in whatever industry we're in. It just happens to be that this is intercollegiate athletics, athletic departments, content, PR, and such, right? How gratifying is that? The feedback you get from folks after they have gone home and they come back year after year saying, your mission is accomplished. I learned a lot. I could take this back to my university, whether I'm one person, three people, or a staff of 25.
I mean, it's so gratifying. I mean, we do a lot of conferences throughout the years, and sure, it's wonderful and it feels good to do things for the folks at ESPN and Fox Sports and NBC. But to do it for people at a conference like this, where this is the only outlet they get for something like this, you can tell just how much it means to them. That's why I encourage a lot of kids when they ask, like, oh, how do I get in this industry? Or how do I start shooting video? Or can you get me into this or whatever? I always tell them, I was like, go to like your local or go to your high school's like girls soccer games, or like go cover content somewhere where it isn't already being done, and see how quickly people will be appreciative of the fact that you're there. It's like, yes, like one of my first jobs out of college, I worked at the Asbury Park Press in New Jersey and covered high school sports. And that was so gratifying and satisfying, because it's like, yes, I could be the 80th person on press row at, Citi Field for a Mets game, or you could be the only person covering a high school senior's final game before they graduate. And think about how different each of those are going to feel to the subject matter you're covering there. So there's so many opportunities out there. So to do things like this, to curate these kinds of opportunities for people that don't normally get the opportunity to do that, or even leave their own campus or get the budget to go to something like this, it does feel really good. And there are times, like I said, where you service a community, it can be more satisfying and more exciting than doing things at like the highest level, whether it's like the NFL or ESPN or whatever. There's just that satisfaction is pretty cool.
I agree. Last question. So behind you are some of the slides that I've featured today, and some of the leadership pillars, right? Or collaborating, listening, and such. How much do you value, not only for SVG and your coworkers, but what you see going to all these conferences at different levels of the industry per se, how important it is to be not only great on the skill side, but also great as a coworker, a leader, a role model?
I think a lot of people will tell you that's more important. That it's more important these days, and this is not to say that video technology is not still complex and that the people who do it aren't very talented at what they do, but the barrier to entry for a lot of these positions and the technologies, it's really come down, and you can really teach yourself things. And a lot of kids are growing up knowing how to shoot and edit video on their phones and everything like that. So talent is, I hate to say the word replaceable, but there's always someone who can do what you do, no matter how good you are at how you think you do it. Um, and people want to be around and work with people who are kind and good to them and care about each other and will be a good teammate and help each other out. These days, more than ever, being a jerk really doesn't get you anywhere. It really doesn't. And I've learned that a long way. And as I've gotten into more positions of leadership, caring about the people who you work for, I mean, it goes miles and miles in the long way of being able to keep people on your staff and reduce turnover, and more importantly, reduce burnout, or just a decrease in productivity. I think that's been one of the biggest takeaways. That's great about this event, is we get a lot of exposure to the younger generation. People are coming up, and work-life balance matters a whole heck of a lot more to them. You probably grew up like this way. Even I grew up this way as a kind of an elder millennial, where it was grind, 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 grind. Someday it will pay off. Nowadays, work-life balance matters a lot more. And I think that's a really, really positive thing. Sports will always be difficult. Sporting events are always going to be on nights, weekends, and holidays. That's a reality. But the industry has started to go, I don't want to say it's come a long way, but it's started to progress in a way where if you're at the right workplace, you can have your balance of life respected in a way that it should be. And at the end of the day, you end up with a staff that's more energized, happier to be there, less resentful, and won't turn over as often. So I think just respecting other people and appreciating that there's more to life than just this job that we're doing. If you have the right people who are passionate about it and are going to want to do this anyway, then you've got a nice balance of things. And I think people are always going to want to work with people who are kind to them.
Well said. I can't say it any better myself. Thank you for being the debut guest on our video-less summer. Let's just call it a summer experience, Brandon, right? We're naming it right now.
All right. Okay. Summer s'mores or something like that. That's great. And thank you so much for doing this. I know our audience, those people who participated in this, have all universally really, really enjoyed it, learned a lot, taken away from it. And we appreciate you taking time out of, your busy schedule to come down here to work with them as well. So thank you.
And we thank Brandon very much for being on the show. We hope you're having a great summer, everybody. We'll see you next week with another fireside chat on Keep the Line Moving.
Every week, you hear guests on this podcast talk about some of their biggest leadership challenges. As a leader, you want to make an impact on those you lead and reach your organization's goals, while also optimizing your time management. Wherever you are in your leadership journey, we could all use some help. This is what we focus on with our group and individual coaching services. To book a call or get more information, email me directly at chrisg@garganoleadership.com or visit our website at garganoleadership.com. For our podcast and video producer, Jack Radutsky, and our marketing coordinator, Savin Narwal, have a great week, everybody.